He's seen as the inspiration for the continuation of Islam at the Cape.
He actually left Indonesia, or Indonesia as we know it today, when he was about 18, and began this trip of spiritual enlightenment, where he went from Sulawesi to Java, from there to the Middle East, and then came back about 20 years later to Java. And it's kind of there that his story of exile begins. And when the Dutch East India Company began to exert their influence in that part of the world, the Kingdom of Banten started to rise up against them, and Sheikh Yusuf became a part of this resistance.
The Sultan, for whom Sheikh Yusuf was an advisor, resisted the Dutch. Sheikh Yusuf fully supported him in this resistance. And they fought against the Dutch for a number of years. Eventually, the Dutch overran the capital, and Sheikh Yusuf and the Sultan were forced to go into the forests. And from the forest, together with 4,000 men and women, Sheikh Yusuf launched a campaign against the Dutch, fighting against the Dutch for about a year or so. Eventually, he was captured and sent to Ceylon, which today it's Sri Lanka.
So in my research, I found a letter by Sheikh Yusuf, which he wrote in 1689 while he was still in Ceylon. And basically he asked the Dutch in this letter, given that he was now old and sick, he asked for them to return him to Batavia.
So they sent him to Macassar. Zandvliet, I think the Dutch called it, to a farm called Fori. And for about 5 years, he stayed there. And his tomb today is in Fori, or Macassar as we call it today.
It's believed that Sheikh Yusuf's grave was forgotten for quite a few years. And one day there was a shepherd boy that had taken out his flock to graze, and as they were grazing he fell asleep on a hill at Macassar, and while he was asleep he had this dream that Sheikh Yusuf came to him and told him that, you know, this is where he was buried, and then when the shepherd boy woke up he went to tell the community, and that's why we have Sheikh Yusuf's kramat as it's known now, or his tomb. If we talk about Cape Town today in terms of lasting legacies, a lot of people have elevated Sheikh Yusuf's example as a model to follow in terms of standing up to an oppressor, in this case a colonial power, and also doing so in a way that encompasses your religious values.
He had charisma, he had gravitas, he had those qualities of a spiritual guide. And he passed on teachings that were in turn absorbed in a dedicated fashion by his disciples, who in turn passed that down. That really is where his legacy lies.
Bump.